Keshia, and in today's video I am going to be sharing with you all some of my sewing essentials. Some of these things are items that you might also have in your sewing room or in your crafting space, and some of these things you may not have, but I find that these things are very useful for me, and they really help me, stay organized, stay in my groove, and stay in my moment as I'm sewing. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you right now what those items are. Keep watching. Okay, so again, my sewing essentials, I got them all right here on my table in front of me. I am going to show them to you and talk a little bit about each one. So my first essential is a simple rotary cutter. So when I first started sewing, I did purchase many different brand of scissors, and I purchased different brands of rotary cutters. And I was trying to figure out what works best for me in terms of scissors versus a rotary cutter. And I find that although I use my scissors periodically, my go-to is in fact my rotary cutter, because I'm able to do straight lines and also get around those curves when I'm cutting out my patterns. When I use my scissors, sometimes going around curves, I get those jagged edges. They're not smooth. So I like to use my rotary cutter because it gives me a nice clean cut around my entire pattern piece and my fabric. Next up is this really handy measuring tape. So I'm very sure many of you that craft and do other things, and so you probably have quite a few of these already in your stash, but I do love this a lot because not only is it a measuring tape, but it also gives me all of the increments to each of the lines on here. Not sure if you can see that well, but I am a little challenged when it comes to knowing exactly where certain of the lines are on my ruler and on my measuring tape. So what I do is I use this because it has the markings already on it, and it helps me really make sure that I am aligning my markings where they should be and my cuts where they should be. And yeah, this has been very handy. Sometimes I will actually put this over top of a standard ruler to make sure as I'm using my standard ruler, I know exactly where my lines are. All right, so next up, still in the measuring department, is this really nice it's called a hot ironing ruler. It's a hem guide, but you can use an iron on it. So when I am trying to work on my hems and press my hems, I'm able to put my fabric over here wherever I want the hemline to be, or where I want that marking to be, and I use my iron to iron over it to give it a nice crisp hem. And this is really useful because it really gives me all of the markings on it as well. It goes from the 1/4 inch to the half to the 3/4 inch, and again, you can put your hot iron on it and make sure that my hems are nice and even and pressed along the hemline. So yeah, I really have this as my essential. So my next essential, kind of around in the cutting space, but are these really cute. I actually have about 4 of these, but this is my gold set. They are actually called embroidery scissors. While I don't do embroidery, I did purchase them because they're just really nice and small. You're able to clip your threads with them, or clip like your really tight spaces where you might have to do a notch or clip some fabric. But yeah, these are really handy. And like I said, I have a set in gold, and I also have a set in silver. But yeah, these are actually called embroidery scissors, and I did purchase these from Amazon. So the good thing about these is also they come with these little covers, so you don't make a mistake and get poked with them. So yeah, another essential for me. So my next essential here is this seam guide ruler. So again, I purchased this when I first started sewing, probably about 2 years ago, not really knowing exactly where to place my fabric on my machine. This hem guide actually gives me all of the markings for different seam allowances actually. So whenever you're sewing, you have a seam allowance. It'll tell you, you need to make sure that your needle is this far away from the edge of your fabric, and these are the markings for that space. So what I simply do is these little holes here, I kind of I put my needle in each of the holes, or in the hole I want, to make sure that when I place my fabric on my machine, that it is lined up properly on the proper allowance. And once I do this, I'll use my magnetic seam guide to kind of make sure that I keep my hems and my seams on that marking, on that measurement. And I got this from Madam Sew. All right, so another essential for me it's not really it's an unconventional essential, but it is this handy tray. So I was in the market for trying to find a really easy way to keep all of my essentials on my table in a organized way where I could see everything, and this came in handy. I found this at the dollar store. It was like $1.25, really cheap. But what I do is I will place my scissors, my marking pins. I'll place my my measuring tape on here, my rotary cutter. I'll put all of that on my tray, and I keep this on my table. That way it's easy for me to maneuver my things around a little bit, and it keeps things nice and organized. I'm not in my room trying to figure out where things are when I need them, because I had them right here. Okay, so the next item, and I actually found this not looking for it, but I was like, oh yeah, that would be perfect for my room. It's this Singer bobbin winder. I think it's what you call it. Yeah, bobbin winder. So this is it's actually battery operated, or you can use a cord here. And what this allows me to do is to wind new bobbin threads without me having to unwind or unthread my my top stitching thread on my machine. I can keep everything threaded, and if I need to wind or thread new bobbin, I can do that on here without interrupting what I'm doing on my machine. So this comes in handy. What I like to do whenever I'm starting to sew is I will typically wind maybe 2 at a minimum, just in case I run out in my machine. I have one more I can go to, and I use this to make that happen. And this is by Singer. All right, so next up on my list of essentials is this simple timer. Yes, I need a timer. What I had noticed is sometimes I feel like I don't have the time I need or I want to get my sewing done. Sometimes I like to just like take a chunk of time and just sew, but it gets difficult. I try to now time myself on my sewing. So someone might say, well, why don't you just use your phone? Yeah, I mean, that would make sense, but for me it's just not that simple, because I do so much on my phone already. I like to have a separate timer set up in my room so that I can time myself to get my sewing done. And actually I used this timer as I worked on my one of my last patterns, one of my last garment makes, because I knew I wanted to time myself to see how long it took me to get it done, and this came in handy. I can go up to, I think, 2 hours on here, I think, in different settings. So this really comes in handy, and I think I'm going to be using this a lot more often, because like I said, I really want to start spending more time in my room getting things done. And I think the best way to do that for me is probably to like do a 30-minute or an hour, maybe 45-minute increments, just to get my projects completed. So yeah, this nice little timer. And my other sewing essential really is around this handy little well, it's not little, but it's a pin cushion. I have 2 of these in my room. I used to have one, and I found that I was constantly moving one from my table to my machine, and it was getting to be a bit much. So I did purchase 2 of these, and I'm able to keep my my pins in here. And I keep also safety pins in them, because I use them quite frequently, especially if I'm trying to like thread my elastic, or any kind of encasing I'm trying to work on. I use my safety pins sometimes. But yeah, I find that having 2 of these in my room is necessary, so I'm not moving them from one place to the other. So one's on my table, and the other is on my one's on my cutting table, and the other is on my sewing machine table. So my other essential in my room is this journal, and there's nothing really special about it. It's just a simple book, a simple notebook. And what I do is whenever I am working on a project, I will track the project, not the project, I'll track the pattern name, what it was, and different things that I encountered or different things I want to keep in mind as I'm working on the pattern. So in this book, and it's like a journal basically. In here, I will track what it is that I made. I'll track the different measurements for it. I might even track the machine settings I used, some of the challenges I had along the way, which helps me come back to you and give you information about what I did and how my experience was. And then I like to also, when I'm finished with a project, I'll put a little sticker on it as my reminder, like, yeah, you did that. So it keeps me encouraged and keeps me motivated in my sewing, and keeps me on track so I can remember what I did, what I would do differently if I decide to do another pattern again. So yeah, this is my little journal. All right, so next up, I told you guys some time ago that, you know, I love a nice candle. I love candles, flowers, I love butterflies, I love all that kind of stuff. So I do make sure that whenever I'm in my space, I go ahead and light myself a nice candle. There's nothing like me being able to come to my room, light my candle, get my diffuser running, and set my atmosphere with a nice fragrance, something to kind of keep me, you know, feeling great, feeling happy, and getting my sewing done. So for me, certainly a nice candle or some kind of aromatherapy diffuser, something to keep my space happy, gets me going. And finally, so yeah, you guys may remember seeing these things back in the day. I don't even know if they are if they even still exist, but let me tell you the history around this. So this is a basic document holder, right? So when I was an admin assistant many years ago, and even when I was in grad school, I had to have something to prop up whatever I may have been reading or typing from. It just really came in handy. How I use this is I used to keep my pattern instructions on my table as I was sewing, but it got cluttered and I wasn't able to move things around easily. I was constantly leaning over and trying to, you know, find things on the instructions. So what I decided to do was pull out this document holder and keep it propped up on my table or on my little cart here that you can kind of see a little bit. And I keep my instructions on here. So as I'm working through my patterns, I keep my instructions propped up on here, and I just go in and I, you know, check off as I'm going along, and it keeps the instructions off my table and keeps my space free to move my fabric around and do my cutting and things like that. So yeah, definitely a document holder works for me. So yes, that will complete my video. These are all the things that I find essential for me and my sewing space. Without them, I kind of feel like I'm not really ready for the challenge, but these things have helped me in my sewing and are continuing to be a part of the things that I need and go to get my sewing done. So I want to know, do you have very similar essentials in your space? If you do, what are they? Are there things on here that you had never thought about using in your space, but now you will? Yeah, let me know. So I want to thank you for watching my video. If you have not yet subscribed, what are you waiting on? Please go ahead and click the link below to subscribe so that you're able to get all of my content and join my community of people who are sewing, DIYing, and all those other things. So I want to thank you for watching my video, and until we come together again, God bless.